lump there the size of a walnut. And I was paralysed and tortured is the only way I could describe it for about probably 15 minutes.
In what manner? Can you describe what you felt?
Yes, apart from the incredible pressure on my mind, it felt like I was in a vice from the waist down, and my legs and hips were being crushed. It was incredibly painful, almost like drove me to the edge of insanity even. And then it broke away, and also I thought, and I collapsed on the floor. I had a blood nose and a big swelling in the lip and that, but I was a bit shaken up, but I felt okay. But to go on with what happened after that, leaving the boy behind, I failed then, obviously. A few days later, I was sitting reading, and my right hand just reached out and grabbed something and threw it against the wall on its own, without my bidding, and that shocked me. And over the next few days, there were more and more losses of control. My leg would reach out and kick something on its own. And these were not jerky, like nerve movements. These were fluid movements. My hand would reach out and grab a glass and throw it on the floor.
Oh, God, that's weird.
Yes, and I couldn't feel my hand doing it. It just happened so quickly. I resorted to even like tying my hand to my side for a while, but that didn't work. Now, these episodes of loss of control and continued over the weeks to build up, and I started having blackouts. Well, not really blackouts. I was aware of what I was doing, but it was like I was pushed out of my body. And with my experience at OBE, I know I was like in an out-of-body state, and I was watching myself do things and say things that I had no control of. And so what was happening, this entity was learning how to control me.
What is that like, Robert, to feel your arm or your leg or some part of your body do something you're not willing it and telling it to do? I mean, something completely, totally alien. What does that feel like?
It's freaky. It doesn't hurt. There's no pressure. I mean, this is not, you could say, not like a psychic attack when you got feelings of dread and cold shivers everywhere. Your hand just goes out and does something very quickly. And but you were completely aware that you didn't intend to do that.
Then were you just left wondering what the hell just happened?
Yes, exactly. But this started getting worse, and it culminated in an episode on a rooftop car park. We'd driven into town, a friend of mine, and his wife, and my wife, and we had the baby in the back of the car, my youngest son, and I got out, we were 10 stories up, and got the baby out of the car as usual, and as soon as I picked up the baby, it took complete control of me, which is what I call virtual puppetry.
Oh, my God.
And marched me to the edge of the rooftop car park to make me throw the baby off.
Oh,
and yes, and jump after it. And I had no control. It was like, you know, the car bogged when your wheels are just spinning. You're trying to move and do things, but you're just not connecting with your body.
Yes.
It's an amazing feeling. But with my experience with OB, I tried everything. I was no novice at that state, and I managed to regain control just at the last moment and very quickly put the baby down.
All right, well, that's going to cause me to immediately ask you about something, Robert. That's an incredible story you just told. Now, I have, in this country, story after story after story of people doing things like that, inexplicable things that are just criminal and axe murderers and people who eat other people and throw people out of windows, you name it. And I've always called them head shakers because there's simply no rational way to understand why they did what they did. I wonder if what you're talking about here, in some percentage of those cases, or maybe even a high percentage of those cases, is what's really at work.
Yes, definitely. I think when you have a case where a perfectly normal person suddenly loses control and does something horrific, I think that's a very clear sign of a possession attack. There was a case I heard of a few years ago where, this was in Australia, where a man who was a good father, nice man. He was at home having dinner one day with his wife and his 3 daughters and his best friend there, and he just walked outside, picked up an axe, and killed everybody. He killed his friend, his wife, his daughters, the dog, the cat, even the budgie. And then he started on the neighbours. He was, of course, brought down and locked up. Police got there fairly quickly, thank God. Now, he was taken to jail and locked up, and his mother was caught as the only surviving relative.
Yes.
And she went and saw her son, and she walked out of there, and she said, "That is not my son.
Not my son.
My son does not have a green face and red eyes. Thank you very much." But a couple of days later, or the next day, that man reverted to normal and was left to face the consequences of what had happened. And no amount of talking will get you out of that one.
I take it in Australia you do not have the death penalty, do you?
No.
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 Here we do, Robert, and if people are convicted of a capital crime, particularly of that heinous nature, they're likely going to lose their own life because of it.
That would be a kind thing to do to a person who'd done something like that, because how could you live with that? You have the memory of doing that in your head. It's not like a blackout usually. You usually have a memory of it.
Yes.
So, but it's very unfair.
I guess if what you're saying is true in a percentage of the cases, then yes, you would say it is unfair.
Yes. Of course, it's unprovable by modern science. They don't recognise it. Anything paranormal.
Well, I wonder if that's about to change.
I think it will do in the near future, yes, as our understanding increases.
Now, of course, people are going to say that's going to lead to the devil made me do it defense, you know, and it certainly would. Those people would be right, but maybe you're right, too. It's not exactly the devil, but a demonic influence of some sort. You're really sure in your own mind, Robert, I mean, to take a child in your arms to the edge of, a precipice, to throw it off, have you ever tossed around in your own mind your own sanity? In other words, that at that moment, it was not some sort of evil entity that was doing this to you, but rather some form of your own insanity. I've got to ask about that.
Yes, I have done a lot of work on myself in that area. Well, how do you say? I've definitely considered that at great length. But the symptoms I experienced were so alien, so outside of me, that it wasn't me doing it. And I've seen this in other people. Very quickly, if somebody did use that as a defence, common sense would say that you could not release a person like that back into public again, because the danger would always be there until they were completely exorcised, which is a very difficult thing to do.
Is the danger always there with you?
With me?
Yes, sir.
No. No, I defeated this thing and released myself from it.
How did you do that?
Right, what I did was, there is no cure for something like that. I had the choice. I could either kill myself, have myself locked up, or find another way.
Did you consider those things?
Yes, I did, definitely, yeah. Yeah. And, no, it's a hell of a thing. I mean, literally a hell of a thing. You know you are losing control, and you can't do anything about it. And you know what it is, but nobody would recognize it. Well,
as you walked to the precipice with that child in your arms, you were aware of what you were doing, right? You could see...
Yes, I was aware of what was happening.
You could see what you were doing, you could feel what you were doing, but you couldn't stop what you were doing.
I'll tell you how it was. I wasn't looking through my eyes. It was like I was standing about 4 feet behind and to the side, watching myself doing it from a distance, third person. I wasn't inside my body.
Wow.
It was an OBE type experience, and it's just spinning your wheels. Nothing will work. It's a total puppetry type state. But releasing myself was how I discovered a lot of the things I put into my new book, Countermeasures in Practical Psychic Self-Defense.
And you are convinced that the entity that was driving you to the edge with this child was the same one that entered you from that 5-year-old?
Yes. Yes.
That never really left, I guess, huh?
Yes, there are.